Hello, and welcome to the Weekly Scroll podcast brought to you by the Adventure Archive. My name is Ryan.
And I'm Hunter.
And today, if you're not watching this live, it's going to be weird to hear an introduction right after we just finished the interview where I also did an introduction, because this is going to get stitched together. But you get to. You're welcome. Welcome. Thank you so much for being here. Again, so we just... I'm pretending that it just happened. Spoke with John Hambone McGuire of 321 Action fame. This morning we talked all about 321 Action. We talked about podcasting, tabletop role-playing games, everything, social media, and the burden it has on us elder millennials, young Gen Xers or late Gen Xers. And now we're actually going to read through the 321 Action RPG. And give a little review. I think this game is, tell me your thoughts on this, is about the shortest game we would actually give a real review to. Am I wrong?
It's going to be wildly short. Like, I mean, in actuality, it's 28 pages, or I guess that's including the back cover. So it's like, near 28 pages, right? 26 or something like that. Mm-hmm. And yeah, I mean, it's unbelievable. I mean, we've reviewed like shorter games that had more rules. You know what I mean? Like, not a ton of rules. So are we doing like a point value on this, or are we just doing kind of like a roundup at the end kind of situation? It's hard. We have to think of a new thing, because I don't know. There's fucking almost no art. There's just not. I don't think we can do a point value. I think we can do what we like and what we don't like.
Okay. Well, I mean, that's what we've been doing with a lot of the ones that are a little short, like Primal Quest and stuff like that. With just two little blurbs.
I'm really enjoying it. So I liked, there's so many good fucking like little zine games. Yeah. We're never going to get through all.
The problem, I think the problem with giving a game this short, those kind of values, is you're stacking it up against games that are like 150 pages that have so much more
that have rules. Especially like talking about rules, like they have 150 pages to develop a like mentality around rules and like how to execute at the table. We can't do that. Ryan.
So we'll do this zine style where we just talk about pros and cons at the end, and I'll throw up a little graphic on that. But yeah, I think this rides the line where if it was a little bit more dense, I think it would be just big enough to do a full review. But I think it does a disservice to try to compare it to just like bigger games since it's so short. Before we get to that, though, we are going to do some Kickstart the Podcast, and I think, if I'm not mistaken, we're going to do some physical. We're going to get physical.
We're going to get physical with these rewards. Yeah. We're going to hand out some physical rewards. You've been such a good girl. I
don't really have any, so we're just going to kick straight to your window. Here you go, buddy.
Yeah.
You're all big.
I look so great in this living, and I should have worn a fucking different colored shirt so my skin didn't match. But yeah, everyone look at me quick.
I'm so tired that the Zoom fix your bag feature is maxed out, and I still got bags.
It's crazy, actually. I think we're on the reverse now, because I'm about to go to bed after this, and you were actually just waking up, huh?
Oh, I literally just waking up. We are.
It's usually the reverse. I've just woken up. Yeah, I'm on my way.
Good night, good morning podcast strikes again. Here we go.
Yeah. Okay, cool. So I have a lot of stuff. I haven't really shown a lot we've been doing with episodes, and I've been on and off. But one of the first things that I would like to look at, and I totally blank on the creator's name, but is Airlock by James Floyd Kelly. It is, God, there's so much to it. It's the zine. I got 3 pamphlets, which I believe are adventures. Item cards, like med kit containers, like a container that you can cut out the center and put items in it for them to find. And I got some other stuff. It's a ton of stuff. It's a ton of accessory stuff from Mothership. It's really, really cool. Really stoked on that. Immensely worth whatever I paid for. I don't even know what I paid for it, but
it's not that expensive. I actually found out as we were getting started, and you told me about Airlock. I was like, "Fuck, where's mine?" Apparently, I did not back it. I don't know how. I backed fucking everything.
Shun the non-believer.
We even talked about it on the show, and I think it was one of those things where I was like, I must not have hit save on it, so it didn't remind me. And I was like, I gotta remind myself to just back this as soon as the episode's over, and I guess I fucking never did. I'm super disappointed. I love having physical rewards, and that tell me I'm wrong, but I genuinely think that entire stack of physical table stuff was like it was $25. How did I not fucking back that?
There's a lot of really good roll tables and little tools in this, and they've got like boards for creating colony maps that are very useful and like ways to generate this stuff. Oh yeah, and then I got 2 facility key cards. Well, it's actually I think 4 because
they look dope too.
Yeah. So like for I think there's an adventure in there. I truthfully have not really read through it.
The patch too.
Oh, the fucking patch.
Where the patch is dope as fuck. Oh dude.
Yeah. Hell yeah. Patch.
Space is hard, try not to die. That is sick. I would have paid $25 just to get, dude.
You would have paid $20 for the fucking patch, you know?
I would have. So I hope that James Floyd Kelly puts these out somewhere, because I had every fucking intention of buying this. Especially $25 for all that shit is insane. Don't know how I fucking missed this one.
Yeah. Next I got Grok.
Dope.
Very weird fantasy. I'm gonna be honest, I just keep flipping through like the art that came with it.
Doodle Skelly.
And the whole fucking vibe. Is that who did this?
Yeah, Doodle Skelly is. Unless I'm completely fucking wrong.
And the whole vibe is just so fantastic. The art's so great. I really love it. I honestly mostly backed it for the art. So that was a really good one. Oh, I just turned off all my monitors. And then the last one I got for physical rewards, because you already went over cyber metal in an episode where I was Jason or something. You know, because we're the same person. It's kind of Jekyll and Hyde situation. That's the canon now.
There we go.
Last one I got, one I'm really excited about and I've really been waiting for, is abilities considered unnatural. Joel Hines and Danny Liebster? One of those. Fucking sick. So this, I believe, is a direct follow-up to Desert Moon of Karth. Which is also really great and came out, I think, last year on Kickstarter, I believe.
I think so, yeah.
Really, really cool little like planet crawl, like little planet sandbox. It's not super big. It's like a very like a small moon or whatever. You know, she likes them tiny, baby. The art is so good. The layouts of the cities and the NPCs and like what you can do is really cool. It also came with the town map.
You're blurry, boy.
Got trick it. It's me. I'm the town map. Doesn't matter. It's a fucking big map, and then a map of one of the dungeons, I believe. Oh,
that looks so sick.
And then it came with Escape Sable, which I believe is a adventure. So a little module.
That's awesome.
I love a postcard. Miss Me Yet. Aww. Really, really cool. I'm very excited about that one. I'm very, very fucking stoked about.
I can't wait to get that in hand. So like, you know, as part of the move, a bunch of my stuff got sent to his Hyde, Jason. And it's funny because Jekyll and Hyde are J and H.
That's because it's based off Jason and I. So
yeah, that makes you Hyde. A bunch of my stuff got sent to Jason's house because we used to live in the same town, and I just haven't had a chance because it's like 4 hours away now. I literally have like a carload of shit to go pick up and so many games I can't wait to dig through. We talked about it a little bit on the last one, but one of the things is I'm so fucking excited that all of that Zemo mothership stuff is starting to pop out.
Oh yeah,
so also, excited.
So it's fucking August right now. Like Mothership 1E is October.
Yeah.
Like
I think if you listen to the projects that we're really excited for this year, and tell me if I'm completely wrong, but it's Cyber Metal, it's Cyborg, and it's Mothership 1E. I know when I listen to the Cartelling and Clamor, the Merkborg podcast, or the Stockholm Cartel podcast, they were talking about getting Cyborg out in August. So I think it's going to be beginning of September. So we just got Cyborg in August. We're probably going to get Cyber Metal in August. We're going to get Cyborg in September, and then we're going to get Mothership in October. So we fucking eating good.
Yeah, right, we are. A lot of technology. We all know Ryan's deep love for technology.
Hey, listen, I think I said it's a summer of space or whatever the fuck I said before, even though half of it's Earthbound. But it was a sci-fi year this year, I think, for a lot of reasons. So
We're all trying to escape her.
I wish.
And that's
Fucking
the end of
Wally
my
situation
physical
here.
awards. Actually, I do have one, but I haven't received it yet because my mom was out of town. And I've been shipped into my mom because I also moved and I'm in this perfect spot now. But I got Knights of Lazarus by Spicy.
We talked about that on this past episode on Slayers when you weren't here.
Oh, sick, awesome. Then yeah, absolutely, I got that as well. Super stoked on it.
Looks great. It's stunning. Yeah. You'll be happy
also,
when you get in
with
hand.
them. You know, they seem cool. So.
Yeah, Spicy Tuna. They're fucking dope. Yeah, good people. All right, I'm gonna kick over to some. I think
once told me. Sorry.
I think that. Yep, I forgot to put the window in. So we're gonna do some regular old Kickstarter stuff this time. Put the window in. So we're gonna do some regular old Kickstarter stuff this time. Where you at, son? This one? Nope, that's not what you need to see. Kickstarter stuff. This one? Nope, that's not what you need to see. Kickstarter stuff. Hey, we got it, people. All right, so we're gonna go over some regular Kickstarter projects. Just a couple. So we're gonna go over some because Zine Quest it's still technically officially going. I think for a couple of days.
You know.
Yeah, there's some projects that started in the middle instead of at the beginning and whatnot. So there's just a couple that I wanted to go over that looked really fucking dope. There's just a couple that whether it's Zine Quest or not. Speaking of Cyborg, there's one that looks really neat we can touch on real quick. It is called Psyops. Speaking of Cyborg, there's one that looks really neat we can touch on real quick. It is called Psyops. Yeah, this one looks really dope. It just dropped just a couple of days ago. It's gonna run for a while.
Save money.
It just dropped.
Dude, I just said get out of care. I've just been working overtime.
So this is Psyops, a cyborg zine. It is a, and we talked about this before. I love that a lot of the. It is a, and we talked about this before. I love that a lot of the. Someone said, I have been echoing. Are we still echoing? Damn it. And how did I not hear that?
Huh. Interesting.
Oh, well. So for the first 20 minutes of the show, sorry, everybody, for the echo. And thank you for letting us know. And I should have looked at that sooner. Yeah, so hopefully, sorry, this is gonna be a rough one for you guys here at the beginning. We'll get going again. Psyops, a cyborg zine, is a player-facing in-universe punk zine for use of Cyborg. We talked about this a little before. I love that a lot of the just fucking prolific Mercboard community that just is dropping a ton of great stuff. A bunch of them has shifted into giving us more cyborg content, which is fucking amazing because that's such a creative, just insane community. So to be able to now kind of like eat from two bowls is fucking dope. This one, as I said, is an in-universe punk zine. So Psyops is a 32-page A6 player-facing zine for Cyborg, presented as an in-universe punk zine. No mechanics, no stats, just a chaotic little zine full of world-building, quest hooks, items, and a bunch of other cyberpunk stuff for your players to use in your Cyborg games.
This is really, really cool. I love this.
It looks dope. So what's inside? A review of a newly opened beer garden, player-facing hooks for other Cyborg third-party content, info on the latest SecOp threats, step-by-step guides for criminal behavior, useful ? Contacts, catalog of scratch-built bits of horrible tech, player-driven tasking, and access to that horrible tech, scraps of data, a crossword about a Hollow video series from 30 years ago, definitive rating of some of the dogs around the city, and a bunch of other stuff. What's not inside? Stats, mechanics, rules, and I love this. Any sympathy for the core, the cops, or the capitalist system, and any color that's not pink. Now listen, if you watch us visually, podcast, come check us out on YouTube or Twitch. It's almost the same color pink that we use. It is like the CMYK magenta pink. Yeah, I think it literally is the same color because that's the color I use. And as I get older, I love pink so like more and more, and I love cyan. Give me vaporwave all fucking day. But it's gorgeous. It looks stunning. Even just for the pink, I'd be all over this shit. The art looks absolutely amazing. They have a dry hander instead of a Zweihander. A lot like a two-handed sword, but around 50% deadlier. it just looks super dope, and I love that it's an in-world zine that's still usable as a as something at the table because of all the hooks and stuff like that. The creator is Lettuce. They're sometimes called Zoodialestes. They make third-party content from Merkborg and Cyborg. They have stuff in Pestilent Gifts, and you might have seen the art on Glumdark. For those who don't know Glumdark, it is McGuire, who does the Foundry modules for Cyborg, Death in Space, Merkborg, all those kind of things. They have a website called Glumdark, which is a bunch of like seeds and cool stuff for just like dark, fun, awesome shit. So if you haven't checked out Glumdark, definitely check out Glumdark. And they also did art for Kill Sample Process, which
cool.
Friend of the show, Kevin Rothman. So yeah, this looks really amazing. It's inexpensive. It's a £5 PDF tier, £10 physical tier. So I mean, shipping is probably going to be at £10 too if you're in the state tier, but suck it up. It looks great, and it says issue 1, so we might get multiple issues. So pretty stoked on this. It's already triple funded, and
I just backed it. So.
Yeah, and it's still got 12 days to go. It's a 2-week campaign, so this will be done September 9th. Looks sick, love it. Back the shit out of this. Looks like a great project. And inexpensive for what looks super sick. There were a couple others that I did want to touch on just a little bit. This one looks really cool. I wanted to talk about this one. It is Sunderwald, a legacy tabletop role-playing game. Oh, am I in?
What's up?
Oh, well, and it doesn't matter. So you're seeing what I back things at in this one. I thought I put up a Chrome window here. I did not. So I back this. This is Sunderwald, a legacy ttrpg. It's a role-playing game about how the woods change us and vice versa. And it says Scar the Book. No, I'll buy 2. In the Welcome to the Rivenwoods, in the center of a kingdom of realm, there exists a dark and unsettling forest. It is known as the Sunderwald. This is a game about how the woods change us and how we change the woods. It features a complete standalone game with character creation, enemies, advancement, and the whole deal. It is also a legacy tabletop role-playing game. During play, you will physically and permanently modify this book. Never fear change, Scar the Book. Again, no.
I don't know if I'm going to do that. I think I might get a second book.
Yeah, I'm backing for a second book for sure. So what is a legacy tabletop role-playing game? So there are legacy board games out there. I haven't played a ton of them, but I know that like the big expensive fucking fat box games. What are some of the ones I'm trying to think of in my head? Like I don't know off top,
I have heard. I'm not a big board game guy, you know.
Is it like Frosthaven and things like that? They do shit, but basically like the first time you play the game, you change the way the game works, right? Like you change the setting or you change a rule or some bullshit like that, right? Which is fine. That's chill. That's a thing that you can do. But I guess they want to be a little bit different with the way that they do it in this. And I'm going to actually, because I don't actually like you guys seeing how much money I spent on Kickstarter, I am going to adjust this window real quick and pick a different one.
Nothing to see here, y'all. Nothing behind the curtain.
Nothing to see. All the monies that I've spent. Oh, you don't need to see that. And I sent it to the wrong window again.
Listen, y'all, we're so famous that people just send us free games. We don't back anything on Kickstarter. We just talk about Kickstarters, you know?
Yeah, that's super not true.
I spent so much fucking money on Kickstarter. It's honestly, bro, I could buy a small old used car, you know?
Yep. So back to this. So basically, what is a legacy tabletop role-playing game? It is basically moments of collaborative storytelling are baked into the rules of play. They codify the world building many of us love at the gaming table. Taking certain actions within the world will allow you to unearth secrets that affect realm and beyond. Whenever you meet the conditions to unearth the secret, go to that secret and permanently modify the book by making whatever choices it asks you to make. We've talked about this. I'm not going to do that. Think of it this way. What if we treated the entire rulebook like it was a player sheet? With creative prompts, space for notes, goofy sketches, all those little gaps that both allow and demand creativity. What if we use the legacy idea to mechanically support those moments of shared creation that make role-playing games so magic? No two visions of Sunderworld would be the same, as different groups pull the initial setting and rules in their own directions. Players can modify the lore and setting, the kin and gods, equipment, factions, even the rules of play, and they're permanent. That sounds dope. I'm not gonna lie.
Sounds really cool. I'm really into it.
There's another game, I think, why is it blanking on me? I think it might be like the Descenders. I wish I remembered it, but basically it's like you versus God, but the GM is God.
Always is.
But like you're actually supposed to like tear out pages of the book once you like destroy a rule and shit like that. And I'm like, okay, well, I bought 2. I'll do it once, and then I'll keep one pristine on my shelf. But Sunderworld leaves a lot for the players to determine. There's a specific world and a distinct tone. The art looks fucking amazing. Some of these pieces really cool. are stunning. Like look at the arch in this swamp here. It's beautiful. It's got all of these the green light to give you that sense of like whether it's a will-o'-the-wisp or like a Firefly kind of situation. It looks absolutely amazing, and the concept sounds fantastic. I love the idea of just like fuck this book up, and they're gonna get double money out of me for it, so good job.
I did definitely get 2. So
yeah. So the team is Richard Kelly. They're a writer and game designer with a passion for strange things. There's Joanna, or Sisilix, is the illustrator and a big player of tabletop RPGs. I mean, their art stunning. Just that alone, just a couple of these pictures, like there's a picture right here. My goodness, it looks like almost like a candle golem, like with these candles melting all over it as they look over the shoulder back at you with this like archaic like text coming out of their mouth and a wisp of smoke. That piece alone, I was like, fuck yeah, backing the shit out of this game. Looks fantastic. It's AU, which means American dollar worth a little more, enough to cover the cost of shipping differences basically. And it's really not that expensive. You can get the digital version for only 14 AUD. I think it's AD, Australian dollars. You can get the physical version for 29 AUD. And then I believe, there's a retailer pledge. But with add-ons, you can add on some like extra copies and stuff like that. And this is from Longtail Games, which is doing some amazing stuff over there. They are the ones that put out Tiny Tome, Tiny Library, and at Cardboard Monster, they're doing a lot of like great slow funding projects. I know we love Christian Eichhorn. Slow funded a hardback version of their recent Purgatory book, and I think Longtail is doing a lot of the distribution for their now switch to Mix'em instead of print on demand. So Cardboard Monster does a lot of really, really great things. This project looks super dope. It is funded, and it's only got 2.5 days left on it. 59 hours. So if you're listening, I'll try to get this podcast up sooner than later. Jason will have it up on YouTube before that. But it looks fantastic. The art looks amazing. Longtail is great people. So go check that project out. And then there's maybe like one other project I wanted to look at real quick. And that looks really, really interesting. It's from, you might have heard of a little thing called Powered by the Apocalypse, right? Apocalypse World?
No idea. No? Never heard of it.
Never heard of it? Yeah, it's crazy. Here's the thing about Powered by the Apocalypse. I really enjoy the core, but there's parts of it, like the tags and moves that I like to tweak a little bit. Someone somewhere, and I'm still trying to find the Twitter thread, called an entire genre of games. They differentiated OSR, Rules Light, and Post Powered by the Apocalypse. Some PBTA. I'm using that forever now. I love Post Powered by the Apocalypse games.
Yeah, totally.
But what this is called The Thief and the Necromancer. It is a zine-sized tabletop role-playing game from the creators of Apocalypse World, Under Hollow Hills, and the Wizard's Grimoire. This is from D. Vincent Baker. It looks great. I love the art style right off the bat, when you hit it off the bat. And again, honestly, Vincent Baker, Powered by the Apocalypse changed indie games. I mean, let's be honest. So many are at least based on the core system of the 2D6 mixed success. It's huge, and this project sounds amazing, and apparently it's in a series that I have yet to hear of, so of course I back to get all of the past ones too. But this is The Thief and the Necromancer. In this game, you are friends, one a gifted necromancer, the other a thief and a street performer. You both escaped bad situations, and you're thrown in together to take on the world. The necromancer, when you were young, you were taken by a notorious necromantic cult and bound by enchantment into their service. You were useful to them, unflinching and eager, fearing neither the rigors of the stilling room nor the dread of the charnel halls. As you grew, though, you discovered the limits of the sorceress binding laid on you, and with the help of your ghostly tutor, you broke the seal on your mind and fled your masters. By chance, you met a thief on the street, performing, restless and hungry like you, and now you're homies. The thief is a street performer, acrobat, and tumbler. You know, the sleight of the furtive, not the sleight of the forced stone, and the sleight of the filch. You know how to summon an attentive crowd from a purposeless throng of duty-doers, fish catchers, and laundry beaters. You know the blows of the dispeller's sticks, and you know to flee a labor gang. You're raised by a cruel and demanding family, forced to perform tricks and antics in the streets for small coins. One day, enough. You met a friend, a necromancer as restless and ambitious as you, and you guys became homies. So this is a series of games. This is the fourth game in the Wizard's Grimoire zine series. It's a complete standalone game. You don't need any other issues, which are the Wizard's Grimoire, the Barbarian's Bloody Quest, or the Last Adventure, in order to play this, but you can get them as add-ons. And the games share a world and a rule system, but each one has its own unique adaptations and quirks. The Thief and the Necromancer includes rules for adventures, escapades, dangers, and rules for summoning and studying at the feet of a ghostly tutor as well. So this looks just awesome, and I love that it's a series of games.
Fucking sick. What the fuck? Yeah. How do I not know about this series? This looks sick. How is it
the fourth one? Yeah, looks amazing. The Thief and the Necromancer uses a dice pool version of Powered by the Apocalypse moves. I know you love a good dice pool.
I do like a dice pool, actually, so I'm interested.
Here they're called exertions, and they describe how you exert yourself to get things done. You can exert your empathy, exert your grace and calm, exert your physicality, and you can exert yourself violently. Love a good violent exertion. It does say content warning, moderate violence, fantasy horror, necromancy, body horror, all that kind of stuff. And then it gives a breakdown here with spoilers, so I'm not going to read them, of the previous adventures, and talks about the upcoming adventures in the series as well. And what's dope is if you are a patron, you get this PDF of this for free. So that is the system in the game. So basically it's Powered by Apocalypse dice pool system and a really awesome sounding fantasy world with a thief and a necromancer. You know I'd have to be the necromancer, right? You gotta be thief boy.
I'm always the caster, man. So
no, we'll figure it out. But anyway, it sounds awesome.
Yeah, listen, you can be a brooding thief. You know, thief.
We'll see.
You can be sad.
So there are multiple tiers for this. There's a digital tier for $15. There is a print tier for $22, which is not bad. You get the PDF. You get plain text. We love a good plain text. Accessibility is always important. You get printouts, and you get the physical thing. They have a couple of these pay it back tiers, which is interesting. So basically, they say they've never asked for any type of money or funding for people that have used Powered by the Apocalypse systems and made money off of it in their Kickstarters. If you want to give back, if you have made money based on their game, you can choose to back at a tier designed to say, as a creator, I've made money using your game. Here's a little bit back for the troubles. Thanks for creating it. And they even have a publisher one too. It's 150 and 1500. I think those are great ideas. And they got a couple of backers at each. So, you know, if you have, created a business model or games that have been successful, that's a cool idea by them to be able to pay them back a little bit, but beyond that, it just looks like a cool fucking game, and I'm excited. I definitely backed for all of the past ones too. I'm excited to read through those and play those as well. So looks dope.
Yeah, it does. While we were sitting here, I actually purchased the PDFs for the old ones off their site and downloaded them. So I'll be reading through those after this in bed.
There you go.
So
I think that's probably it for this week. I like to make sure that we hit ones that are expiring soon, and when we have more time to go over some other ones. So a lot of them are like early mid-September, a couple late August ones that we might not be able to get to.
Oh, you know what? Did we talk about Empty Cycle? By
sure we talked about that a while ago, did we not? Yeah, we did. We did.
That was an episode where I was Jason. So
yeah, it must have been that one. And that's about all we got for today. I think that's it. That's all we're gonna cover. And we got some other stuff coming up we'll go over next week. But we're gonna hop into the game.
Let's do it
and take it from there. So
40 minutes. That's pretty okay. That's pretty. That's our old normal.
It's old normal. And we did a bunch of stuff.
Yeah, we did a bunch of stuff.
So game read through. Let me see how bad I positioned this. I think I did a pretty darn good job. Blind putting that in there.
Beautiful.
Boom. So today we're gonna be going over 3, 2, 1 action. This is from Gio Collazo and John McGuire. Again, for those that are listening who continue to listen, for me, this was like 8 hours ago. For you guys, it was like 40 minutes ago. We did interview, I did, because Hunter was working, making that bag. We interviewed John McGuire this morning here on the show, or 40 minutes ago. And just dug into 3, 2, 1 action, the reasons behind a lot of the system, and a lot more about podcasting, about the scene, and everything like that. It was a great interview. John's a really cool guy. A lot of cool insight. So you definitely want to, if you skip that, go watch that. But also, if you're here, you probably did already. Anyway,
I'm excited, man. I got about like 20 minutes in before we got started. And I was like, oh, this is like a really, it seems like a very candid, very good interview,
Yeah. It's like super cool guy, and definitely candid, talking about a lot of the system and their past and stuff like that. So it's great. It's a great interview. It was great to talk to John too. So going into 3, 2, 1 action. One of the cool things about this book too is that it's free. This rulebook is completely free on DriveThruRPG. It will always be free on DriveThruRPG. And it will be constantly updated, John said. So as games like Children of Uma, which we talked about on the show, they have vehicle rules in Children of Uma, and they're going to have some other update, like sneak rules and different things. So as I write more adventures and they need a little bit of extra mechanical bits for those adventures, this book, this PDF will continuously expand as they add those little bits in, which is super, super cool.
Very
First of all, it's a great business model, and second, it's great for the fans of the game. Yeah. So getting into 3, 2, 1 action. As we talked about, it's only 28 pages, and a lot of it is other stuff besides the game. You could easily fit the rules of this game on probably just one page.
Oh, totally. You absolutely can. There's a lot of discussion on how this works and everything, but it's like, it's pretty much, it's pretty easy to understand. Yeah.
Super straightforward. I'll go through the preface a little bit, and then we'll start getting into the rules.
Okay.
Let's get the preface, not the post-faced. Have you ever watched a scene in your favorite action movie and wondered how you could make it work in an RPG? Have you ever wanted to drop a Macho Man elbow on some Martians or fire a rocket launcher while jumping off of a skyscraper? Now you can. You want to be The Rock? You can be The Rock. That's what I get from this. 3, 2, 1 action makes it simple with rules that run off a single D10. Just let the game runner know what you want to do and make it so with just one rule, with one roll. 3, 2, 1 action is for everybody, and it's a perfect system for cinematic storytelling, whether it's 80s action, crime drama, haunts, heist, mysteries, sci-fi operas, or weird westerns. Oxford comma 3, 2, 1 action has got you covered. 3, 2, 1 action is all about letting the game runner, much like a TV showrunner, set the scene and the players declaring what they want to do and then calling for action. All challenges... I just realized something.
What?
Now, why I didn't hear my echo before. My computer randomly decides to mute its desktop audio. 3-2-1 action is all about letting the game runner, much like a showrunner, set the scene and the players declaring what they want to do and then calling for action. All challenges, damages, and rolls are done on a single D10, and bonuses and penalties are either a 3, a 2, or a 1. Hence, 3-2-1 action. There's minimal math, which means maximum fun. The rule set also leaves plenty of room for wild ideas and harebrained schemes, which are not only allowed but welcomed. Anything is possible in 3-2-1 action. We talked about this a little bit before the show started. The game, it's a very simple game. And I like that it definitely is a vibe. I think the 80s action movie vibe. I think some people are going to dig it. Some people are going to, think it's a little bit corny, especially you kids that didn't grow up in the 80s. But I think it's fantastic. And I think regardless of that, especially with the number of adventures that have been written for it, there are, Children of Uma is a post-apocalyptic world where you're like a teenage punk gang. The Devil in New Jersey, we were talking about that. Your kids getting bullied in high school, and someone gets taken, and you're basically going to the woods trying to find this person on prom night. So it lends a lot, the system does, to a lot of different styles of play. But at its core, the rules are basically what it feels like is 80s action movie, which is cool. How to play. There are 2 roles in 3-2-1 action. The game runner runs the show. It's their job to set the scene, call action when the game starts, and control all the monsters, traps, and puzzles. If you've GM'd, it's a GM. And then there are players who play the game. I mean, I like that the how to play section is literally just one tiny little paragraph. There was a really fun, interesting discourse online about these how to play sections, especially from Monkey Paw Games and their creator, who dug deep into literally all the books from the 70s and 80s about what is this game and how to play it kind of paragraph. So it was cool to read that. I like that it's not a bunch of pages. If you're reading this, I mean, this one's a little different. I think this is a great intro one. So this one's a little bit more, but in some of those more dense ones, that's not your first tabletop role-playing game. Yeah,
my thing is always that, I think that section adds value, and you know what? I don't have to read it. You can
just skip it.
I always skip it. I know how fucking this thing works, but if someone picks it up and thinks that, maybe they pick up a complicated game, but they're like, oh, I love the concept of this, and that's what they want to go with. Fucking go for it, buddy. Yep. And then 5 years later, discover OSR and be like, why the fuck did I have so many rules? There
you go. One of the things I do notice right off the bat on this PDF, because we're just jumping straight into what it is. Did you notice anything missing from the beginning of this? That's always helpful.
Yeah, there's not an index, and there's not a hyperlinked index as well. So.
The book, I mean, I could talk about hyperlinks and stuff like that, but the index for sure, there's no index. I think 28 pages is enough. 28 pages is big enough that it would be nice to have a little bit of an index, just for easy use at the table, to be able to bounce back and forth, and to be able to highlight quickly. So I think, especially if the game is going to continue to get bigger, then I think a table of contents at the beginning would be a huge boon. So yeah. Getting into the core of the game. This is tasks, and it explains the core. Most actions the players might try are rolled against one of 6 character stats, ranging from 2, which is the lowest stat possible, to 9, which is the highest stat possible. The character stat being challenged must be met or rolled under to successfully complete any task. And when it comes to actions, always remember the basic rule of 3-2-1. The lower the roll, the better the outcome. We'll get into that later. Most characters can accomplish simple tasks very easily. Basically, if you can do it, don't make them roll for it. Come on.
It's a good rule. Honestly, it's a great rule for literally every game.
It's literally every game. If people rolled less than 5e, it would go faster and not be so clunky. If I'm actively searching a room, why am I rolling to search? Of course I'll check everywhere. Fucking come on. Oh, but you didn't look under the bed frame hard enough. Come on. For example, a chef can make an omelet with a little effort. For mundane tasks done easily during daily routine, there's no need to roll. But if you do, you get challenges. So for a light challenge, it's 1. For a medium challenge, it's 2. And for a hard challenge, it's 3. And to explain that, the core of the system, when you get those challenges, you add that to your roll. Right. So an easy task adds 1, medium 2, hard 3. And then you, on a scale of 2 to 9, you see where you were in the action. So long story short, the way the system works, it's a D10 roll under system. You roll 1 D10, and then you have to get under your associated stat for that thing. And then the challenges add to your roll, so it's harder to get under stat. So if your stat is 8, you roll a D10 and you have to get under 8, right? But if it's a hard task, you add 3 to whatever you rolled. So say you rolled a 6, and it's a hard task. If your stat is 8, you rolled a 6, you go 1, 2, 3, that's 9. I failed because I rolled over my 8. But say you roll a 2, 2 is always good. And when you add that 3, you're at 5, you're under 8. And on top of that, how low you go under that is how well you did. So if you roll a 2 and you get to a 5 is going to be a lot better than rolling an 8 right on the dot. And that is the core of the entire fucking game. Right there. I think it's clean. I think it's clever.
I think it's super clean. It's also nice because it's like, it's a D10. So we know that there's a 10% chance of each number, right? So like, yeah, when you look at like a 30% like difficulty boost, like that's considerable. And it's also like not hard to figure out that that's reasonable. It's like fucking that's 30%. Yeah, very much like this. I was thinking about D20 roll unders because I'm working on a D20 roll under thing that somehow turned into Into the Odd. Shout out Into the Odd though. But I'm like, it's so like D10's so clean because I'm like, oh, every 2 points on D20 is 10% up or down, and this is like, no, just every 1. I'm like, oh, that actually sounds pretty good.
Yeah, and they were talking. They said it in the beginning. His initial idea was a D100 system, and then the co-creator of the game was like, "Why don't you just chop off one of them zeros?"
Yeah, totally.
Same math. You know what I mean? Like just simplify it. So yeah, at its core, I mean, like I said, that's the core, and I really like that. I like the 3, 2, 1 like challenge system of it, where it's just like this feels like a 2. Just add 2. Like it's clean. Yeah. I really, really enjoy it. And then we'll continue into the stats and stuff as we go. Do you want to talk about the 2 sentence section here? Or do you keep going? Yeah,
actually, that is one of the only sections I did not.
Well, then I will read it because I did read it. And you hop in the next one. How about that?
Do like listen. I like to let's talk a little bit about this because it's a very cinematic game, and like my understanding of this from what I read is that like. You set the scene and then like the player gives you 2 sentences to fill like what they want to do and like to fill the plot hole of that scene. Or is that my understanding correct from my
kind of a little bit? So basically I asked him about this during the interview and he said instead of having like a huge list of like skills and stats, or say you want to do something, right? Whether it's in combat or out of combat, say it's like you come across, his example was you come across a motorcycle and it's like, I want to ride the motorcycle. And the question from the showrunner, from the game runner is, how are you able to ride a motorcycle? Explain to me why in 2 sentences you have the ability to do that. And he goes, cool. All right. So during the summer we go over to my buddy's house and he does like motocross in the backyard or whatever. So we actually learned how to do dirt bikes, which pisses his mom off because we tear up the backyard, but we dirt bike every freaking summer with my buddy. And it's like, cool, then you know how to ride a motorcycle? Sure, go for it. And then now you just know how to ride a motorcycle. So it's this really interesting way to create like emergent narrative within the system where it's just like, give me a justification for why you know how to do it. If it's reasonable at all, sure, why the fuck not?
Yeah. That's I mean, that's very cool. I also love this, like that emergent, like character building,
Yeah. And you can just define yourself over and over and over. And when we get to the background later, because it's really defined in just like, give me 3 sentences, don't give me a whole huge book. What's interesting about this filling in the plot hole thing is the ability to not know who your character is completely when you start and to like grow into your character as you play.
Yeah.
And using these plot hole things, you can... I mean, I can imagine having like plot holes filled in by other plot holes kind of thing. Well, it's like, well, you know what? I did the dirt bike thing before with my buddy. We also used to do X, Y, and Z, and you can basically create a whole story of like your summer that you spent with your buddy and all the skills you got just by fucking around in the woods or on dirt bikes or doing whatever.
I fuck with that. That's pretty cool.
It's really neat, right? Like, and it's so simple and easy to just be like, just give me a reasonable justification. Have fun. Tell me a story. Just tell me a quick little story. And sure, now you know how to do it. yeah, and that's basically what all of this says is like, how did you learn how to dance like that? And they answered, my mom used to date Bob Fosse. I heard tap dancing all night. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. So yeah, I think that's the entire concept of the 2 plot hole sentence in the game. I mean, I love it. Again, like it's super simple, but what I like about the simplicity of this game is I don't think it's too simple. I think you can make it as in depth as you want, and this makes it really easy. I think this really kind of gets to the heart of new tabletop role-playing gamers a lot of time, where it's like, if you have the ability to do anything, you get paralysis of choice almost, you know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
I think this makes it a little bit easy to just be like, well, give me 2 sentences, like, how do you know how to ride a motorcycle? And people can just be as easy as they want. My dad owned a motorcycle shop.
I used to ride my uncle's motorcycle, you know, that could be the whole thing.
Yeah.
Sure, go for it.
Yeah, I worked in a circus, and we had a bear who rode a tiny little motorcycle, and that's what I learned how to do it on. You know what I mean? It was like riding a bike as a kid.
So
yeah, it was great. He had a nice hat. We had a honey heist. It was the whole thing. And what I love about that is you can go as in depth as you want. So people that really do want to
Yogi the Bear reference.
I mean, it was a Honey Heist, like the game Honey Heist reference, but
yeah, the game Honey Heist.
Oh, we'll have to talk about Honey Heist. It's a good game. What I like about it is you can make it as easy or as complicated as you want. Like if you have a table that's a bunch of fucking improvers that just love telling some, like, I imagine some of these turning into almost like fishing stories. Oh man, when I caught this big bass, let me tell you, it was this big, you know? So I love the simplicity of this and how you can kind of expand on it. So it's interesting. I really dig it. There is a great piece of art here with this character that shows up a bunch in the game. This kind of like alien looking creature here consoling this almost like, I don't know, like Ken and Ryu looking guy with his Goku hair. But what's great about this, if you go to the next page, is a perfectly fine answer is worthy of a -1 to a roll. So minuses are better. A creative answer could garner a -2. And if a skill set and the corresponding answer are really super creative and evokes roaring laughter, then by all means give it a -3. So not only do you get to do as much as you want, you get a boon for whatever you say, but it really does gives it that almost kind of like inspiration feel to what I just said, you know what I mean? Like talking about like, oh, like the whole bear thing or whatever, versus just being like, oh, my dad owned a bike. Like you get a boon to it, but the bigger, funnier, cooler you can make it, the more you're rewarded for it, which just encourages people to get ridiculous, which I love.
Yeah.
So there's
like
actually a mechanical benefit to it.
Later on, when we get to like rewarding players, I did touch on that section as well. And it looks like there is room for like instances like this to be rewarded within this like skill you're creating, but also later on, like kind of this wrap up scenario, but we will get there. Cool. Very cool. So turns, this is like a pretty free form, turn thing. There's really not necessarily, like a turn order for your players. You kind of just describe the scene for your players, and your players all kind of internally decide the order. Is that correct? And like, you know, decide what the cinematic scene looks like, and then the NPCs or monsters go afterwards.
Yeah. And like they even talked about like basically you can as a group basically build a scene and even work together to accomplish tasks. Because when you play 5e and it's like, well, I'm a barbarian and that's a gnome and I'm going to throw them up in a tree, and someone's like, well, you don't go after them, you actually go after this other thing, so you can't do that.
Yeah, it's like, well, fuck me, Jesus Christ, fine.
But in this, you can, because you can literally, as a group of 4 people, be like, we're going to create this action scene, and us 2 are going to work together, and we're going to do this over here. And then it's like, okay, that's how the scene, let's see if it actually plays. All 4 of you just roll your dice. See if that scene works out, and then everyone goes, and then you go, okay, now monster turn. And it's just good guy, bad guy, good guy, bad guy. Super simple.
Very cool. Yeah. I mean, that's as much turn order as I fucking need.
Seriously,
like, yeah, I don't need any more than that. That's fine. I don't care if players go before monsters every time. I don't. So, and I think, like, you know, I'm thinking of like scenarios to play this game, and I wonder, like, this would be a really cool system, if you had like a new tabletop group and you're just trying to jump them in, just to run them through one like 2 or 3 episode adventure, not episode, but like 3 session adventure, because like obviously every moment of this is like, okay, cool, like you guys need, like, what do you guys want to do together as a team? And you can kind of build that camaraderie before you drop them into a different game that might be a little bit more individualized. But you could build the rapport early by walking through this one time, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, and I'm probably gonna repeat this a bunch of times, it's a great intro adventure because it does all of the things that most tabletop role-playing games do, but in a very simple way, so that you build a base of context for tabletop role-playing games. So when you get introduced to a more complicated system later, you know its core, and you're like, oh, it's just like this thing over here. I understand turn order. This works different, but it makes sense because I learned turn order. Like, I understand like the dice roll under and all that kind of stuff because it was done in a simple way over here. But when I switch to Call of Cthulhu and there's a lot more number involved, I understand at its core where it is in context. So this is a great one to do that with.
Very cool.
Do you want to take combat? Or you want me to take combat?
I don't know, I'm just fucking around. So you know, we're kind of the discussion about this book because you definitely talked to him and you've read this in depth. I skimmed through this twice, just because I want to have a basic understanding of everything. So like I'm enjoying us having this discussion where you're like kind of telling me about like, you know, the game. This
is great. So then let me tell you about how combat works, then, buddy.
Here we go. So here's my understanding of combat as well. It's like it's fucking everything's so easy. So you just hit. It's like Into the Odd. You just hit.
It's like Into the Odd. That's exactly what I said. The first thing I said was like Into the Odd. I know ITO right on my little sheet here.
Listen, ITO. I fucking love that game. So for me, comparing it to that game is a massive compliment because I fucking love that game. So you automatically hit, and damage is a modifier based on weapon.
Yeah, exactly. And that's how you can miss, actually.
Right,
because every weapon has, so the example here is a handgun. It's -3. You automatically hit with your D10 roll. You do the thing that you want to do, right? And when you roll under, right, a -3, say you roll a 9, you subtract 3, which gives you 6. You did 6 damage.
Okay.
So that's it. That's the whole thing. But let's say it's a -3 and you roll a 2. Your damage is -1, which means you did no damage.
So you heal them 1 point. You take damage away from them.
Shoot healing bullets.
You suck the bullet back into the gun.
Bullets.
What was that fucking one movie none of us saw? Where they go backwards in time. You know what I'm talking about? Tenet. Zack Snyder.
I saw the shit out of Tenants. I love Tenet.
You?
Tenet is not Zack Snyder. Did you just say Zack Snyder?
Who? It's not Zack Snyder. It's
Christopher Nolan. Why did I say Zack Snyder? And I loved it, and it was a great movie.
No, I don't know anyone other than you who saw that fucking movie. No offense. That guy's a good.
I watched it, and it was great. I loved it.
You're the one.
Anyway, but yes, like that, you suck the bullets out of the people. Basically, that's it. That we can create a whole we could play this as Tenet, and one group going forward, one group going backwards. But no, that's the premise of the entire thing. Is that and actually big weapons, when we get to the weapon section later, are pluses. So if you got a fucking rocket launcher or flamethrower, you actually get like pluses to your roll because you just damage everything no matter what. It's like impossible to miss. Yeah, you're 5 feet away with a flamethrower. You're not gonna miss. It's just how much do you singe them by. But that's the core of the entire combat system. Is basically you roll your D10. It's based on the modifier assigned to the weapon, and then you just subtract the damage. So that's I need to do that. If you want to punch, kick, fire a gun, do a sweet macho man, elbow drop, everything has an associated modifier to the weapon itself.
Right.
Still comes down to your 1d10 roll, and then it's all based on the modifiers after.
You love when you don't touch nor die, you know? Like picking fucking it's just D10 the entire time. I don't have to fucking, which one do I roll this time? There's only fucking one, you know?
Well, that's exactly the example he gave when he was talking about the game. Is he said he played a game with a buddy who just could not remember which die to pick up to roll. And it's like, well, if you only have one, you don't need to. That's why the game that I'm currently working on, it's literally just 2d6. Even to the point that if I need something different, I do a d3. And what do you roll a d3 with? It's just the d6. It's just d6s. I love when it's just a simple thing. So
I'm making a game that uses a d20. I'm sorry, y'all.
I know, you know how I feel about d20s.
And then there's a dice pool. So
the dice pools, there you go. The other bits and pieces of combat are that each weapon allows 2 attacks per each player's turn. Or 1 special attack per each player turn. So there's a little bit difference to it. And you can also target multiple creatures at a time. So it does do something a little bit different with that. But that's at its core, that's all it is. D10, and then the weapon itself will tell you its modifier to damage. You always hit unless your total damage value is under 0, at 0 or less. And that's how combat works. It's literally just that, and then you just go back and forth. So
very cool.
The next bit is probably my favorite mechanic in the game. Did you read through this?
I read through it. It's very interesting. So luck is like, it's a lot of stuff. You know, luck is essentially your HP to a degree, or like one degree or another, and it has a bunch of other uses, right?
Yep. So basically,
it's like a reward system. Go ahead. Yeah, go off, King. Tell me.
So luck basically allows you to alter the rolls, right?
Yeah.
But it is a pool, which is your health. So the more luck you spend, the closer to death you are, right?
Cool. Yeah. You push your luck, you know, getting close to the edge.
Exactly. And that the whole, like, you know, we learned from friend and mentor Source of Victory, choice design in tabletop role-playing games, reward now versus reward later, resource management, all those kind of things. So you have to determine, do I want to fail this roll, right? Or do I want to literally spend my health and bring my health lower and lower so when I do take damage, I could die, you know? But if you're swinging through a jungle, over like a lava river, and you fail a roll to grab the next vine and you're falling towards a lava river that might completely kill you, are you going to spend a couple points of luck, get closer to death, tweak that roll, make sure you at the last second grab onto the last vine?
Yeah,
or are you going to see what happens when you fall into the lava, you know?
How's it going to play out?
Just see what happens.
Very cool. Yeah, I do really appreciate like those, like that kind of resource management, that kind of choice, to, you know, to be a miser or to be like, no, I gotta blow this fucking now. Very cool.
Blowing left and right here. But once
once you run out of luck, you die. What?
So once you run out of luck, you die. You dead.
Yeah. You can't re-roll or adjust damage with this, right?
Damage. Yeah.
Damage is like the one thing.
Yeah, because you always hit. You can't adjust the damage roll. The only exception is you cannot use luck points to adjust weapon damage or to directly assist another player. You can indirectly assist them, but only through their own actions. And we'll get to that towards the end, but luck is earned at the end of an episode. Gained through medkits or other healing techniques are awarded by the GR at any moment for being clever or entertaining. There is no amount of maximum luck. He said that at one point, players doing cool shit and rolling really well could have like 40 points of luck for like the final battle. And there's other players who just have shit rolls and have like 3 points of luck walking into it. And it's like, you got 3 HP, bro. Like, good luck, you know?
Hell yeah.
So since there's no maximum, you just keep storing it up. And then there's player death. So let's face it, sometimes you eat the bar and sometimes the bar eats you. When it's time to meet your maker, you'll know because your luck points will be at 0. Normally this would be a bummer if it happens mid-game, but don't fret. When the battle rages on, pick up another pre-gen character and just get back into it, which is cool.
Yeah, absolutely.
I like the concept of any game where it's just like, I don't care what mechanism you have to do to get this person back into the game. Who cares? Just throw them back in as soon as possible, you know?
Yeah, it's funny. I always read that and I always like the idea of that, but like, I'm gonna be very honest, in my own home games, I definitely like any of them that I'm like doing a continuous story. Like, I do really like there to be narrative behind somebody like joining the party. A lot of the games that we've been reading are like they're not made for that like long story style, and that's why it makes a lot more sense. But I think personally, for a lot of my games, I'm like, no, I want you to be a person. I want you to live in this world a little bit. I
mean, yeah, it's all context in the style of the game. I mean, if you're having, I agree. If you're having a longer game, like when I was running our evil D&D campaign, when we brought on a new character, we literally had like a whole conversation and a whole thing. We knew who the character was, like how they were going to be brought in. Like it was a whole thing before the next session. And I used to do this thing where I would have these guest players or these new players literally waiting outside of my front door, because my front door led right into the room where we played. And they would actually come up with like an intro line. So I would literally be like on my phone texting them and like be setting the scene for like, you see this person and you can't quite, but they say something to you. And the door would like burst open and the player would be like, say their intro line, and they'd be like sitting outside my door for like 20 minutes waiting for the right moment. So the players would start doing a goddamn shopping episode or something to hop in. So yeah, I completely agree with that. With like longer games, it's nice to introduce him as like a fleshed out character and stuff. But again, for this like very one shot kind of style games, it's just like you're swinging through the jungle and suddenly you run into somebody else. You're in a dungeon and the next prison cell opens up and boom, here's another one.
I've never disliked it in the context of what we've talked about, but I do remember thinking the other day, I'm like, man, I do really like narrative entrances. But like, yeah, I don't think I've never disliked the rule. Like, I don't dislike the rule, Yeah,
it's just context. It's what feels right for the table. Yeah, it feels like everything.
So wrap it before you tap it.
Exactly. That's all you got to do. Make sure you wrap it, especially now.
So in the end of go ahead. No, go.
You son of a bitch. No, yeah, it is. Rewarding the players.
Well, go ahead and
yeah. Do you want to read this? Yeah, go ahead. Read it.
So end of the episode wrap up. At the end of each episode, players can roll 1d10 to replenish luck points. Everyone gets to do that at the end of the episode. You always reroll a 1, which I thought was very forgiving, and I very much like that. This is a very forgiving game. So I'm like, oh yeah, fuck, that would fucking suck. You roll a fucking 1, and but yeah, you always reroll a 1, so you'll get at least a 2. Like Ryan said previously, there is no maximum, so these luck points should just be added to their like bank. And yeah, there's no maximum, so you can fucking roll a 10 at the end of the day and get 10 more. You could have ended up with 10 more than you had. You can be stacking that shit up. They can use first aid kits, battlefield medicine. They can heal up essentially. End of the episode award ceremony. So at the end of the episode, you're going to hand out luck to people based on how well they did in certain situations. I think the idea here is that the group votes on a few of these categories, right? And the examples they have, and I could think of even more, is best comedy, best action sequence, line of the night. So +1, +2, +3, like respectively, are added to their luck points just to reward them. And everyone gets to, like, there's a lot of like, I love this group feel, this camaraderie, this like, yeah, everyone vote who had the best line. It's like, oh, fucking, Chad, when he said, my sword is my dick, and jumped in, that was the best line of the night. Cause
I mean, it was great. And again, for new players, I think this sense of there's like a positive feedback loop throughout the entire game.
Yes, totally.
That feels really rewarding and less punishing. And listen, I'm at the point, I love punishing games. If I could walk 10 steps and I die, it could be a little harder. But for newer players, this feels really, really, really fantastic.
And it's hard
if you just don't have a ton of time.
Yeah, this is a very light game. If you know where the story's going, you can just roll with it. Personally, like a lot of issues I've seen from newer players at the table is that starting in like the dragon game or something more complicated that feels more individual and doesn't like call for this much like, hey, group work together. People want to be that guy. They want to be that brooding loner who doesn't say anything. And you're just like, okay, fucker. Yeah, it's a team game. And then when things do get hard, they might take it a little bit more personally. But yeah, I agree. This starts a positive feedback loop where it's like, it's just a game, and we're all working together. Yeah, I do like the mentality that this like really instills,
Oh, show.
Moving around.
Yeah. I think the where things are is interesting. in the context of the layout of this.
Of the game?
Yeah. Well, no, like
totally.
of the document. So like movement, I would put movement and some of that stuff a little bit higher into like maybe under the combat section.
Yeah,
you know
before
what I mean?
rewarding. Yeah, absolutely.
Before, because I feel like the read through is okay. So that's the end. And then now we reward the players, and it's like, oh wait, now here's another thing to go back to it. I would probably put this section right under the combat section. But this is about basically, this is supposed to be a theater of the mind game. You don't count a bunch of squares. You can if you want, but you don't have to. I personally, theater of the mind doesn't, it breaks my brain. I talked about this before. If we're playing theater of the mind, then I have post-it notes and I'm drawing little graphics anyway, so I can remember where things are.
Yeah.
So at the very least, I like having like, I love Merkborg and the way we run it on Foundry, because we create a map, but we don't put a grid on it. It's just like we get a general idea of where everybody is and the context where it's just like, I know I can move roughly that far. They're about that far. It's probably fine. But if they're across the entire freaking map, I know it's not possible. And that's really all the context I need. You know, even just a whiteboard where I'm like, you're this X, you're this Y. You know what I mean? Especially if you have like more than 2 or 3 things on the board. If it's just like one player, one person, sure, like whatever. But if you got 4 players and 5 monsters and all this other crap, my brain just instantly breaks and it doesn't work.
You know what
for me.
I kind of been doing to like, because I've played a couple of Theater of the Mind games recently, you know, I've been doing to really like lower that issue is that I've been playing with much smaller groups than I used to. And so there's less monsters and less players. And I've actually had a lot easier time. There's fucking 3 monsters. I know where they are.
Yeah, exactly. At the end of our DK game, it was a great time. But we had 6 players, and I would never fucking do that again.
Yeah, it's so many.
Ever. And especially in 5e, because you have to quote-unquote balance combat for the most part. The number of monsters you have to have 6 players. You either have a creature so big it bullet sponges for 4 fucking sessions, or you have to have a million little creatures, and it takes an hour for every turn. It's too much. But yeah, so in this, basically, each player can move roughly 40 feet per turn. That's about it. And the limitation is based on common sense rather than hard and fast rules. So it can adjust to that. But equipped characters can move 10 feet per penalty of their weapon per turn. For example, someone who is equipped with a combat knife can move it 40 feet, definitely weaving through combat, but someone equipped with a handgun can only move 30 feet per turn, compensating for the fraction of time it takes to aim. And someone equipped with a rifle, -2, can move 20 feet. So the modifier to damage, because the minuses are closer to the more damage you can do, right? So a shotgun at -1 does more. Yeah.
My +1 bazooka, if I'm holding it, can I not move?
I would say no. I guess we'll continue to read, but that's
the thing is, like, heavy weapons, that kind of makes sense, right?
5 feet. Literally the very next thing. Heavy weapons equipped characters can move 5 feet, ideally just 2 steps. A railgun, minigun, flamethrower, a bazooka. So yeah, basically you can take like 1 step forward to kind of like get yourself situated, or like come around a wall is what I would do, or something like that. But yeah, basically, yeah, your +1 bazooka, I would basically give you the chance to take like 1 big step to like drop to a knee or something, and that's about as far as you can go.
Yeah. Cool. Yeah. They're very common sense movement rules. You know, it's like, it's not super difficult. It uses the same 3, 2, 1 modifier, so there's nothing new to remember here. You know, like, it's very consistent all the way through. Now we're at the
player. Yeah. So this part is a little bit more reedy. Excuse me. So we're getting into your stats. So you get 4 stats. Well, 6 stats, but kind of 4 and 2.
Yeah, 4 and 2. They're very divided up by the situation.
Mm-hmm.
So very I would say 6 stats. You know.
Yeah, I would say 6, but it's still hard. Like, once you get it, you get the content. Like, there's 4 physical and mental stats and 2 survival stats. So yeah, it's 6 stats, but I think it's very different than saying like D&D has 6 stats, because those are all kind of broken up in a very different way, and because the survival stats work differently than the original 4.
Yeah.
So you got 4 stats: action, brains, brawn, and charm.
It's very straightforward. You know what they are.
Straightforward. I think action and brawn are the only things that could give people a little bit of a question on which one you do. Action is an all-purpose movement-based stat. So it's like running, hiding, swimming. Oh yeah, it's great. Yeah. Running, hiding, swimming, climbing, doing all that kind of stuff. A rule of thumb when determining if the action stat is applicable is to keep in mind if it's something that takes a character from point A to B. So literally anytime you're moving, you use action. Brains is brains. I really feel like I don't need to explain that.
We're not going to.
And charm is the same way.
It just
charm.
stops and keeps going.
Charm. So brawn then is your physical strength. It covers heavy lifting, physical activity, including everything from shouldering open doors to wrenching open jars of pickles to carrying an injured body. So it's, again, I think the only time that someone might have a question is action and brawn, but I like the thing is basically like, are you moving while you do something? Then then it's just action.
Yeah, that seemed, I believe that scenario would pop up, but for me, I was like, it's very evident with each of those are very quickly, you know?
Yeah, I think one or two, someone might question it once or twice and then just be like, okay, I totally get it.
Yeah.
You know? And that's how it is. And then so the other two stats, the survival stats, are stats that actually make a big difference within the game. Obviously your stats make a difference, but these are different. So you got cool and you got guts, and I love this. In 5e, one of my big knocks is that I think Constitution being its own thing overall for mental and physical is bad. I would love to have a mental and physical constitution underneath those scores, since it's one of the only ones that doesn't have skills associated with it. And this is what gives you that kind of in game. So cool and guts. Cool is for mental fortitude. It's about keeping your cool, not how cool you are. Because I mean, you're probably pretty cool. Because
I have a fucking 10 in that, bro. I'm cool as fuck.
Yeah. But so this is about. It's more about keeping your cool. It's keeping your head when the sky is falling, slowly walking through a field of zombies covered in guts. Like, it's about just keeping cool. Keeping your cool can help you stay on task and add a bonus to your roll, or in the inverse, give you a penalty. Guts is different. Guts is
literally your guts, you know? It's fucking how's your internal physical fortitude, you know?
Well, and guts is the other. There's two ways to die in the game, and that is losing all of your luck. You're dead. Right. The other way is gut checks. So guts is intestinal fortitude and endurance. It covers how well the player can handle physical stress and strain, radiation, snake bite, zombie attacks, all that other stuff. Here's the thing is all of these can lead to guts check. Let me check them guts.
Check them out.
3.
Wait a lot this episode.
Yeah, 3 failed guts checks will result in an ongoing penalty to your stats. Imagine a sprained ankle or a concussion or a torn ACL. None of these would kill you per se, but it would injure you to the point that it would slow you down and impact what you can do. So after 3 failed guts checks, all characters will lower all stats by 1.
I can just imagine someone spraining their ankle 3 times and lowering all their stats by 1.
Right? Because, I mean, you're so sprained both ankles and a shoulder, you're going to just be like limping along behind. So everything, and even your brains will slow down because you're dealing with the pain. So it's much harder to focus on tasks, right?
But after a 4th guts check.
Yeah, you're dead. You're dead, son.
You sprain your ankle 4 times, bro, you're fucking dead.
Yeah. Yes, and that's exactly what I would do. Is just be like, you strained it 4 times. You create an embolus that flies up into your brain and you die, or it would just escalate clearly. So like a sprained ankle would lead to a torn MCL, could lead to a concussion, to lead to death on the last one.
Yeah.
But yeah, failed gut checks can be reversed in 2 ways. One is by having a character use battlefield medicine or a first aid kit to reverse 1 failed check. The second is by using 5 luck points on to reverse each one. So if you get 20 luck points, 15, you could reverse back to 0. But that's actually sacrificing your life for your guts.
Man, that kind of sucks. That would kind of suck. Because it's like, I mean, 4th fail, that's fucking 5 points each, man. I hope you have a bank, you know?
Yeah,
hope you got
that's what it is.
Luck points right now.
If you have 40, you're chilling. If you got 5, you're shit out of luck.
Because what happens if you just lower, like you go from 4 and you use 5 points, you go back to 3, and then you make another guts check and you fail, you know?
Yeah. I mean, that's it. So 2 ways to die, 4 failed guts checks or luck hitting 0. And I like both ways. I think it's really interesting. It's your total overall health, or it's just repetitive trauma that you're receiving to the point that you just the last one just finishes you off.
Yeah.
You know, I like both ways.
Makes sense.
Next, we're getting into building a character. So quick rules for that. Everything is quick rules in here. Character creation starts with 6d10 rolls, and then you just assign them to the 6 things you want. I do like this. Again, this is a rewarding game. No stat can be lower than 2 or higher than 9 because there should always be a chance for absolute success or utter failure. When rolling your character, a roll of a 10 drops to 9 and a roll of a 1 bumps up to 2. So a couple different ways to play. You can roll like that, or if you've never rolled a character before, you could do a standard array. I'm a huge fan of the standard array. Especially
you love a standard array. I use a standard array forever because of you.
Well, because I think, and I used to run like intro to D&D classes. It's a lot easier to teach someone the standard array than it is to make them roll and understand the context of the difference between 8 intellect and 15 and 16 intellect. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
In the context of that game, it's a lot harder. So going standard array is pretty easy. So the standard array here is 3, 5, 5, 6, 6, 8, which is across the board. That's cool. You get 1 dump stat, and 8s are really solid. 6s are really solid. Plus, don't forget you get modifiers to classes, which we'll get to in a second. But that's the entire context of it. But it does say for seasoned players, hard mode is just give everybody a 1. Hard modes. You get 1 of them hard modes. You can just give a 1 to every stat and good luck. That's hard mode. Yeah. I like the standard array in this. I mean, we're both experienced enough now. Well, the way I used to explain standard array versus rolling is standard array lets you build the character you want to build, and rolling lets you try something different because you can play into stats that aren't what you wanted to do. So it's more like build a character and then standard array assign it, or roll your stats and then build a character around those rolled stats. It's just different ways to approach it. I also think that,
like, personally, not to totally go off the trail, but I think rolling for stats in previous editions of D&D was actually more interesting than 5.
Oh yeah, well, because 5 is uninteresting. Yeah. So once you've rolled all your stats, choose the character's background, and there are 6 backgrounds here. And you add +1 to a stat. The game runner will apply a -1 to another stat. I love this. I've used a similar system like this before. A +1 and a -1 is a great way to do it across the board. You cannot subtract from the same stat you added to, and this will keep everyone honest. The rules above still apply, so a +1, -1 can't be used to raise a stat above 9 or lower than 2. So doctors, you get +1 to brains, -1 to charm. Knowing plenty of doctors, yeah, you have terrible bedside manners, you fucks. Driver +1 to cool, -1 to guts. Lawyer +1 to brains, -1 to brawn. Pilot +1 to action, -1 to brains. Scientist +1 to brains, -1 to brawn. And soldier +1 to action, -1 to charm. So I love that idea. You get a boon and a bane basically when you pick your character. You're good at something and bad at something. Just a little bit though. But I mean, that's 10%.
It's 10%.
It's a 10% change right there.
Yeah.
You know, that's two whole numbers on a D20.
That's fucking quick maths. Yeah.
Yeah. 5 times 2. 5 plus 5. Either way, it works out. And we're getting into backstory. I love the backstory thing. Again, super fucking simple. I have been given 10-page backstories before that give me the entire history of something that somebody's done. And I feel like if your backstory is too long, it puts you in a box.
Yeah, it does. It's like, people try to make their whole life story. I'm like, no. This is the beginning, guy. You've done a little bit before this, you know?
It's a prison of your own making. Get out of it. Because one of the things I always like to do is the dagger system. We've talked about this. We played.
Right.
And it's 3 open-ended parts of your backstory that could come back and bite you in the ass later. Yeah. You know, it's a dagger. Like, you hand it to me, all sharp and nice.
Yeah.
And I stab you with it later. It's great. And it forces people to come up with these ideas where, like, I wronged this person in the past and then left, no idea where they are. That's a great open-ended part of your backstory. So I prefer those kind of things in a bunch. But this says backstory in 3 sentences. Which, again,
3 sentences. I was like, oh, okay, cool. Yeah, I can do, like, perfect. Like,
part of the reason why RPG seems so daunting to many at first is that there is a certain unspoken expectation for a character to have a lavish backstory and an accent and like a fucking full-on. You're not LARPing. You don't have to. So I love this. It's 3 sentences based on their role. It's 1 based on their role, 1 based on their motivations, and 1 based on what brought them to the adventure. That's it. Love it. So the example here is Captain Teresa Gale, a true woman of the sea. She's been in love with the ocean ever since she was a small child. Always curious about the unknown. She's been sailing since she was a teen and runs a tight ship. Growing tired of the familiar waterways of the Northeast, Captain Gale retired and left New England in search of new adventures and the oceans unmet in other parts of the world. If you count the periods, that's 3 sentences. That's her entire shit. Captain Gale has been sailing since she was a teen, number 1. Number 2, she's a ship's captain. Number 3, she retired and is in search of new adventures. That's it. That is it. And you know everything you need to know about this person. And what we talked about before is you can learn more as you play. All of those fill in the plot hole sentences.
Yeah.
You can use those 2 sentences later to keep building this character and actually emerge and grow with the character, which is fantastic. The rest of the characterization will come in. Yeah, exactly what I said. Fill in the plot holes. It says one of the reasons Netflix is so successful, or was, is that they raise their prices too often, is getting you to give a random movie a shot as they keep their descriptions short and simple. That's true. It really is. Like, I like to just see like 2 or 3 sentences and be like, oh, you got me. There's demons and fantasy shit or like whatever. I'm in. You know?
Yeah, absolutely.
It's clever. And that's Canadian the entire fucking backstory. Movie. Exactly. Yeah. Oh my gosh. Or any ancient Japan kingdoms stuff. Like ancient, like, you got me. You got me already. I'll watch your 3-hour subtitled movie. You win.
So inventory is super simple, right? Your inventory is you can carry a maximum of 4 items at any given time. Could be handgun, combat knife, shotgun, and a tool. You know, that yeah. Ammunition's always count as part of your weapons. You have to worry about that. And then yes, some heavier weapons could be bigger. It counts 2 items essentially. That's it.
That's it. Because you're in an action movie. How often are you running around with a
managing
fucking
inventory,
whole extra like donkey carrying your 200 pounds of gear and shit? You're not, right?
Yeah.
Every time, what cracks me up, like especially with D&D, like I always within the first 2 sessions give a bag of holding because I'm like I don't want to fuck with this.
I'm like fuck it, dealing with shit. It's fine.
But when you look at carry weights, I honestly imagine like the first time I ever saw Monty Python and the Holy Grail, and they start like clicking over the top of the fucking hill or whatever. But I can't remember the name of his squire, his little guy, that giant fucking like comically large pack that his little squires carry them. That's how I imagine an entire party of D&D characters just has like a 5-foot high fucking pack like walking around on their back. Because you got 200, how are you carrying 3 wardrobes worth of clothes, like 3 halberds, 2 swords, a shield? It all fits in your pack though, right? Come on. So I like this. I like that it's pretty much what you got on you and what you can quickly pull off a belt, and that's it. Easy peasy.
Yeah, that's it. I mean, cool. We did it. We figured out inventory. I love a simple inventory. So
I love a simple inventory, but I do enjoy a nice inventory system like Durf.
Yeah, you do like a good inventory system.
I do. I literally have an entire game we need to go over sometime that's just about inventory. It's so cool. I really want to play it. We'll talk about it.
Okay.
Anyway,
so
weapons. Yeah.
So Dimga is damage. Is movement and combat. So DMG, Dungeon Master Guide, is damage. MV's movement, round, ammunition. SA is special attack. Probably should change that. But yeah.
What's wrong with SA?
Yeah. So do you want to fuck you? Do you want to pick a weapon to talk about? I'll pick one.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with. I'll pick a melee. You pick a range. Do you want to do that?
Yeah. What melee one you gonna pick?
Well, you know I was gonna go samurai sword, but I can switch it up.
You fucking
brass knuckles. Brass knuckles. All right. So movement is 40 feet.
No one understands me. I'm dark.
You were gonna pick the samurai sword.
I'm known as Ichi. I'm a warrior.
Which one were you gonna pick, son of a bitch? Which melee weapon you gonna pick?
That's exactly
you son of a bitch. You can't give me shit when it's a mirror right here. This is a mirror, you son of a bitch. You fucking edgelord douchebag. You are me.
Oh my god.
Brass knuckles. Movement is 40 feet. So damage is -5. So we talked about this. As you get less and less feet, you get less and less movement because this is a -5. It's really small. It's held in your hand. It doesn't affect your movement. You're not aiming or anything like that. So it adds its movement of 40 feet. It's a damage of -5, and the special attack adds 1 to brawn checks involving breaking things, and +1 to charisma checks to intimidate NPCs because they're brass fucking knuckles. It cannot use ranged weapons.
You're way more charismatic when you're holding on the brass knuckles. Let me tell you.
Well, you're intimidating, man. Like
hey,
if I roll
here,
up on
motherfucker.
Cannot use ranged weapons while wearing brass knuckles. Basically, it's too. It fills your hand and you can't use it. That's fine. That's cool.
Hell yeah.
Do you want to go? Why don't you go over the samurai sword?
No, I'm shucking.
no, we really should though, because it is different. It is neat.
Okay.
So
go for the samurai sword or katana is a movement of 30 feet, damage of -2. The special attack can be used to sever limbs. If it deals half of the enemy's remaining life points, then it can sever 1 limb. If it can reduce the target to 0 LP, it will deal a killing blow by decapitation. We've all seen Kill Bill, you know?
Yep. It happens.
You've seen the scene with the crazy 88s. There's not really 88 of them, but you know.
Yeah, I mean Tarantino's a fucking hack, but
same.
Talking about ranged weapons, why don't you pick which one you want to go over first, and I'll pick a second.
I'm gonna do the sniper rifle.
Dope. All right, go for it.
All the way at the bottom. Or I mean, you can do yours first. I just went, so you know. What are you gonna pick?
Is it the M4 rifle? No. That's a
M24 sniper rifle is all the way at the bottom. You gotta keep going down.
Oh, I kept, there was one more page I need to go to after. Hand grenade. Yeah, all right, go for it.
So the M24 sniper rifle, movement 0 feet. Obviously, you're gonna be fucking, you know, you don't run with the sniper rifle. You are planted. 10 rounds. Damage is a -1. Pretty good, you know. Fucking, you roll a 10, you're doing 9, you know. Can special attack can potentially target enemies several maps ahead. A miss might trigger an attack of all nearby enemies.
You expose your position.
Yeah, absolutely. But that's cool. Like that's why I was like, oh yeah, you can fucking, you know, your whole party can be ahead. You can really live that like very cinematic moment or like spy movie moment or anime moment where it's like, where'd the shot come from? You know?
Exactly. Yeah.
Zooms in on you.
I want to do the M2 flamethrower. Decommissioned.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. So movement is 5 feet. It's got 3 charges, and the damage is actually +3. This is one of those ones that actually, no matter what, you're doing damage. Even if you roll a 1, you got 4 damage here, which is crazy. So this is the heavy weapon, which takes up 3 item slots. So literally, if you're carrying this, you got like maybe another dagger on you, maybe a flashlight. That's all you get, because we just talked about you only get 4 slots. So this is your entire identity if you have a flamethrower. It cannot be reloaded. After 3 charges, you basically just dump it. The special attack is the attack can affect multiple creatures in a 5-foot area and will continue to burn. So just damage, and then however you want to, finish that off later, that's totally fine. But I mean, yeah, this is fucking dope. If you're in a room or whatever, I don't know. There's random moments in your life that just stick in your head as memories for no real reason. And one is McGuire, when they're on some base being attacked by like the biggest swarm of like deadly fire ants in the history of ever, and he MacGyvers a flamethrower and wipes out entire swarms of these fire ants. And I don't know why that's a scene that sits in my brain forever, but anytime I think of a flamethrower, I think of that.
I've never seen MacGyver.
I mean, I think I was watching reruns, and I'm like, 5 years older than you?
Definitely were.
Yeah.
When did MacGyver stop airing?
Probably like mid-90s. So while you're looking that up, I'll talk about makeshift or improvised weapons, bar stools, pool cues,
92.
broken bottles. There you go. I was 7 when it stopped, so I was definitely watching reruns.
I was 1.
Sometimes players want to grab something handy for dramatic effect. Have fun with it. Maybe a beer bottle can restore a luck point or 2 if the character swigs it before breaking it. Basically, do whatever the fuck you want. I like that. I like that there's structure without rules. Rulings over rules, I think, is a good system for this. And then armor. So armor grants a person wearing it temporary luck points that can be expended first. I love that idea.
Yeah, it makes so much sense.
It makes so much sense. But and then each piece of armor, like when it's gone, it's gone. Like if you take enough bullets in a flak jacket, it's going to stop being effective. Yeah, you know, a flak jacket gives you +5. Yeah, you literally. One will get through. A flak jacket gives you +5 luck. A picture of your sweetheart back home gives you +4 luck. A little extra courage. Uncle Jack's lucky King Griffey Jr. rookie card gives you +3 luck points. A fallen friend's dog tags +2. Kevin's lucky rabbit foot +1. I love how ridiculous this is, but also like by being this ridiculous, that you go like, oh, I can fucking do anything. You know what I mean?
And it totally makes sense, right? Like armor is more than just like there's a flak jacket on there, absolutely, but it's also like, yeah, picture your sweetheart back home's gonna push you a little bit more. You know, you're gonna move a little bit quicker. You got a girl worth fighting for.
Exactly. The cartoon, not the live action, because what the fuck?
No, but I've never seen the live action, so
she was teleporting. Because rolling for ammo, because most weapons in the game will be found through exploring.
I like this. If you find it, it's not gonna have a full clip, right? Like how much ammo does it have? Magazine, but yeah. Well, you fuck me. I don't care. I'm from Texas.
Chances are you're from Texas and you should know that.
It's just a gun to me, bro. I should walk around with my gun in my hip.
What does Bangalore and Apex say? Clips are what civvies used to hold their hair back.
God, I fucking hate every line that Bangalore has ever said.
I main bang right now, so like it's you know, it is what it is.
Boo. Boo the guy who mains Bangalore.
Why wouldn't you main bang? Come on. Anyway, so because most weapons in the game will be found. You don't even fucking play Apex.
Not anymore, no.
You should. It's good. They will always be low on ammo. When finding ammo in the game, players will roll 1d10 to see just how little they find. Exception to this are specialized weapons like flamethrower that have charges. So yeah, like you said, info rifle, you get it's a d10 +1. So a lot of them have +1s and -1 to the charges. So grenade launcher is literally a -8. So you could find an empty grenade launcher, and I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and she's like, yes, I got it. No, that sucks.
It's empty. Yeah, very cool.
So we hit content warning, lines, veils, and the X card. This feels like it should be in the beginning. Yeah, it should be a little bit higher up. I mean,
totally.
I like the way the game is laid out really cleanly, but I do feel like one or two of the sections could be just reorganized a little bit. And, you know, maybe as they're adding stuff, they can reorganize it, throw an index in. That's what I would recommend highly. But this talks about lines, veils, and the X card, which we've gone over many, many times. And we say this, and we'll say it again all the time. It's always great. Have a zero session. Use whatever system of content. Content. Why do you know how to start? Like triggering and stuff like that. That is appropriate for your table. At the very fucking least, always have a conversation. Because someone might not be as much of an edgelord as you.
Super weird if you have a brand new table and you're like, there are some dark themes in your games, and you don't have a single conversation. You know. Like,
that's ridiculous.
Hey guys, there's going to be a fucking lot of death in this. I kill people actively.
And that doesn't mean that, like, if you've been playing with the same party forever, at some point you've probably had that conversation. You don't need to have it every time, which is fine.
Yeah.
But with new people, new players, and new systems, it's a great conversation to have. I like that it's in here. I do think, just in the way TTRPGs generally work, they should be at the top, especially for newer players.
Yeah,
they should have this early in the rule system.
The easiest place for a newer player to miss it is at the end, because it's like, well, we're already past everything I needed to build my character. So
exactly. So we're not going to dig through that whatsoever. And then what I like here at the very back is like a 2-page quick start rules.
Yeah,
like at the end of an already simple rule book. So basically, we don't need to go over it again. Game runner, tasks, filling the plot hole, turns, movement. But notice where movement is in the context of the quick start rules.
Right. Yeah.
It's after turns. It's right under turns. But in the whole rules, it's after the reward system, after luck and everything like that.
Isn't that fucking interesting? I wonder why they must have been making one place or the other at another point in time. I wonder what the story with that is. But yeah, I do agree that it does make more sense to be moved around. I think I really enjoyed going through this with you today. I think it's a really solid, like, little game, very simple. But I do think like the one thing is like, yeah, just some sections need to be moved around, you know?
That's about it. That's really the only knock I have on the system. And I was talking to John about it too, and I was just like, if you go into this with the mindset, and this is how I described it, is this is an awesome, you can play it anytime you want. This is an awesome intro game. And I even said like my favorite game if I was introing someone new, because I see it all the time on ttrpg Twitter. If you're teaching someone how to play TTRPGs, what game do you go with? My answer all the time, Maze Rats. It's always going to be Maze Rats.
Yeah.
I think Maze Rats is a great game, and Ben Milton Games, he literally teaches 5th graders and uses 5th graders as playtesters. So being able to have, like, that's the reading level and the comprehension level that you're at. This jumps right up there to my top 2 or 3 intro games for newer players or for younger players. The system is super clean, super great. And what's great about this, just like Maze Rats, is even though it's great for introduction to new players, there's still plenty to grab onto for experienced players to just play a relatively more simple rules-like game. I don't have any critiques. I think when we were talking early before the thing started, you were kind of like a little bit like, eh.
I think the scope of this is like inherently incredibly limited. I think that you're not doing like long-term campaigns in this. And I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing. And I think that there's definitely a lot you could do. There's more. I personally want a little bit more crunch than this. But yeah, I really like it for what it is, you know? And I figured I'd grow to like it more as we were talking about it, because I always do. And I do really definitely. I will probably only play the system to introduce new people one time, and that's the only time I'll ever play it. But I think it's good. I think there's a lot of good here. I think I love the thought process behind the D10 and the use of the D10 and 3, 2, and 1 is a consistent thing. It's like really genius.
And I love luck.
D10 is just so easy to figure. It's like, you know,
you
know, one die. I like it. I like all the things about it.
But again, what's interesting about it too is that this rulebook is live and is going to continue to expand. So the other thing that's crazy is this came out in 2021. We're in 2022, right? So in that scope of time, they put out Children of Uma is working, and that's got car rules and or like just vehicle rules and stuff like that. Post-apocalyptic wasteland, teenage punks, whatever like that. They did Escape to Point Nemo, which this was kind of written for. It's a very like it's like an island action movie adventure, whatever. They did just drop the 321 horror version with Devil in New Jersey, so go check all that stuff out. But since this is live, there are vehicle rules in Children of Uma that will make their way into this document.
Right.
And some of the little pamphlet adventures, there's going to be sneak rules that make themselves into this document. So what's cool about this is it's really light right now, but I feel like in the next like 6 months to a year, this is going to expand by probably 5 to 10 pages and give a little bit more bite and crunch to some stuff. But if they continue to keep the systems light, you know, we talked about that in Flail a little bit. Flail is like 100 pages, and there's a lot of rules, but the rules themselves feel light.
They feel very light. You're like, oh, duh, that's how the other thing works, so why wouldn't it work like this in this scenario?
So I think that's the feel I get from this. They could add 30 more pages of rules, but if each individual rule or system they add in continues with this theme where it's just like, duh, that makes sense, that's really easy, it could be twice as long and still feel like a great intro game, like a great simple game, like a quick one to play with. So I think I don't disagree with what you said a little bit. Like this is a great intro, not great for potentially campaigns, maybe like a couple of episodes of something or the adventures that they run that are cinematic. As it gets a little, I'm excited to see where this rule book will look in a year and how much more crunch has been involved and what the continued Kickstarters and adventures come out as they explore lots of different ways to play using the system, since they do have, like I said, an action movie game, a post-apocalyptic or an action movie adventure, a post-apocalyptic adventure, a horror adventure. It's really interesting to see where this is going to go. Like I said, I love it. It's clean, it's simple, it's smart, it's clever. There's nothing in it that I would go, I don't like that bit, and that's always great to see at the end of a game.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
So I think,
hey, well, that was fucking 3, 2, 1 action, man.
Yeah. And I think that wraps it up at the end. Is basically there's a little bit of layout stuff that can be tweaked a little bit. I think a table of contents would be great to add.
Yeah.
And then system wise, great intro game and excited to see where it goes.
Yeah. Fantastic. That's it. Thank you all so much for coming. That was our episode of the Weekly Scroll. if you enjoyed this, which I bet you fucking did, you should check us out on Twitter. Our Twitter is at weekly_scroll. Instagram, also a great place. It's at the.weekly.scroll. Check us out, twitch.tv.com/The Adventure Archive, or check us out on YouTube under The Adventure Archive. My name's Hunter. That guy up there is Ryan. And we hope you guys have a fantastic whenever.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is the last thing I want to say before this is 3-to-1 action. Again, always will be free. Check it out on ttrpg. That's a place you can always get the PDF for it, and everything else is sold on Exalted Funeral. So, Hunter, have a good night.
Sleep time.